In this segment, I'm going to discuss the output that is generated when we regress salary on gender, just to give you an idea of how some of the elements of the output change when we have a predictor of this nature. Again, this is a dichotomous or categorical predictor that is coded 0, 1. So let's turn our attention first to the model summary table. At the very top, there's something that I want to mention. Someone had a quick question the other day about the difference between capital R or uppercase R and lowercase r. So our lowercase r, remember, in the simple regression case with just one predictor, as we have here, is the same as the standardized beta. So if we just eye down to the coefficients table and look at the beta, that is negative 0.082. So that is our lowercase r, and if we square that, we would get 0.007, and that is in the model summary box under uppercase R squared. So SPSS, recall that I mentioned earlier that uppercase R's are typically only interpreted for multiple predictor cases. However, SPSS doesn't change these R's to lowercase r's when you only have one predictor, and that makes sense. It doesn't know to change that output to a lowercase r. So it's always going to give us an uppercase R, and that's normal and to be expected. And so again, uppercase R up in the model summary box is simply the square root of the r squared, so it's the absolute value of lowercase r. And it's just always that way no matter how many predictors we have. So typically personally, I pretty much ignore the large R, the uppercase R in the model summary table, unless it is a multiple predictor case. And in that case even, we usually are looking at the R square or the change in R square, because that's most of the time what readers want to know. However, you may want to report the uppercase R as well. That's just your choice as the researcher. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules around that. So what I usually look at in the model summary table is the R square, or the change in R square. That's the most important part. Here we don't have a change in R square since we just have one predictor. We have no blocks that we've entered these variables in a hierarchical fashion. So we don't have to worry about that particular aspect. All right, so that's just a note on that, hopefully to avoid any future confusion in that respect. So we have our ANOVA table, which is the same as before. It's interpreted the exact same way with the sum of squares regression, MS regression, and the same for residual. And we see that this F-test is not significant, and that makes sense because our relationship was not significant. Recall the beta or the little r, lowercase r, was not significant in the last slide either, so that makes sense. All right, so the model summary, the coefficients, let's go head down to that one at the very bottom. We have the constant, and that is interpreted the exact same way. It is, when the predictor is set to 0, what is the expected value of our outcome of interest, and that is salary. And so that would be when the predictor is at 0, or for males, what is the expected value of the DV? So when you are male, your expected value is going to be, looks like $65,500 something per year. That will be your salary. And then for the B weight for gender, that's exactly the same as we have talked about before. Remember, when we move one unit up on the predictor, what happens to our outcome of interest? So as we go from male to female, we expect a drop in salary of $2,800 or so, as you can see with the B weight for gender. So that's how you would interpret this, and it's the same way, but so the pattern is the same for how we interpret, but just so you know that it's the pattern, it will be the same when we move from male to female. What happens now? If this coding was reversed, we would have a different sign for that beta and the B weight. So if we went from female to male, we would expect an increase in salary of that same amount. So you can go ahead and recode those to see. You can recode those if you would like in SPSS just to see what happens to the sign of that B weight. So something you can do if you want to just find out what happens to it. But just remember that, okay, so the overall point of all that is to remember that the way you code those groups is going to change the interpretation of your B weight. It won't change the relationship. There will still be the same difference between the genders in salary. It's not significant, but it's still a difference of $2,800. But the way that, again, that B weight is specifically interpreted will change depending on which group you assign a 0 to versus a 1.